Well, in this chapter, we'll be discussing our database connection. And before you can do a database connection, first and foremost, you have to design the database. And after the database design, what to do is to make sure there is a link between the design and the database itself in such a way that information can be queried from the platform, the application, to a database that can keep them, and whenever they are needed, they'll be fetched. Well, like I said earlier on in the first introduction topic, that this is our database software XAMPP, where you have MySQL and Apache running on it. What we need to do right now is to launch it. I already have it open, so I'll just click on it. Now the XAMPP control panel is running fully. What I need to do next is, on the SQL panel, I'll click on SQL admin, and now it has successfully loaded database area on the web application. Currently it's running on Internet Explorer. If you look at this entire section here, these are the database that runs my SQL itself. You see PHP-MyAdmin here and all that. So what we need to do right now is to create a database. And if you look at it here, I already have a database called student record, but we need to create this database from the scratch so that you will understand how I went about it and how to go about it on your own too. So first and foremost, I'll drop the database from here so that we can create it afresh. Now it has been dropped. Let me refresh. Sorry, it's still showing there. Let me do that again. Now drop. It's saying you are about to destroy a complete database. Yes, thank God. As you can see up here, database has been successfully dropped. It means that the database has already been deleted. Now what do? Go back to the home page of the database. Now this dialog box here shows that create a new database. What do? Database we're going to be creating is going to be related to what we're going to be doing. And what are we designing? The application we're about to design in the nearest future is student record. So we'll call the database student record. Student record. Okay. Now after you've typed the name, what you need to do next is click on the create button. Now I'll click on the create button. The database has been created, but funny enough, there's no database table in the database. As you can see here, it shows that no tables found in database. But we need to do one or two things in this database of ours. What we're about doing is just to create a database that will hold student information, and this student information is going to be basically on admission status and all that. So we're going to go for an entrance examination, and after that we need to go and check for the admission status online and all that. But before then, we need to have an admin session for this design, an admin who will control every activity in the website application. Then on the other side, a student information collection system, which should be the student record itself. But on this platform, we'll call it the register, where students will have to supply some basic information to the system, and from those informations we can access whatever the student is doing. That is also where the student can do a search later using the surname or the first name to search for admission status. So what I'll do right now is to create our first database table, which is going to be for the admin. Now if you look at this dialog box here, it shows create a new table on database student record. Now I'll give this one name as admin. Then under the admin, I'll put 3 feeds here. We will understand why I'm putting 3 feeds here in a moment. After you've done that, you click on the go button to open up. Now what we have here is a 3-feed system that will accept 3-feed from us. Why am I putting 3 feeds? What I just need in this aspect is a username and a password for the admin to log in and control from the control panel. But what I'm doing here right now is I'm having 3 feeds. Why is the first one or the last one important here? We're going to be making use of this first one as what? The ID. What is the ID all about? It's a primary key that assigns numbers to individuals that will be using the system. Without the ID of this primary key, 2 people cannot use the system at a time. 2 people can never ever use the system to be just for one person. But with the aid of this ID, the system is automatically able to assign whoever is coming into the system numbers that are peculiar to them. So for now, on this first field name, I'll call it admin underscore ID. Why am I doing this? This is the ID feed. Then on the integer, on the type, I'll leave it as integer because it's meant to collect so many personnel. On the value, I'll leave the value out for now. Then in terms of this index, please take note of this. When you click on this index, you see a drop down list. You see primary key, unique key, index, and full text. This primary key and unique key are mostly used, but for this aspect of this ID, we're going to be using primary key. What is the primary key all about? It means that each number that will be assigned to a person should be unique to that person only. So on that, I will put auto increment. This auto increment is just there to automatically add +1 +1 anytime a new query is coming to the database. That means you can add so many users into the database and they'll be controlling it at the same time. Then on this second row here, I'll call it the username. Then on the type, I'll call it varchar. The reason I'm choosing varchar here is because the username will be comprised of both letters and numbers. So varchar is able to collect both of those information. Then for the length, you have to specify a length for this username and the password because it will require you to at least give a length. So for the length, I'll put 40. Then for the other one, password, I'll give it varchar too because it must also be comprised of numbers and letters. I'll give it 40. Then after which I've done all that, I'll go to save database. Now that I've saved it, you see some query up here showing that database has been created and username and password feed are successfully created. And here you can see that the admin table has been created. It shows that our database now has a table called the admin. Now we still need one more table, which is the database. We really need to create a new table under the database we've already created. So we'll create the new table name as register. Then in terms of the feed, let's just put 8. You see that in a moment. Now you have all the feeds lined up here. The first one is still going to go for the ID. We'll call it reg_ID. For the data type, we'll leave it at integer. Then for the index, we'll leave it as primary key. Then we'll mark auto increment. Then after that, you can come here and say surname, first name. Mind you, when writing all these things, make sure there's no space between them. Middle name, then date of birth, DOB, local government of origin, SGA, state, then You have your phone number. Then for all these, I'm going to choose varchar for all of them. Varchar for all of them. Okay, then for the length, I'll specify length for each of them. I'll just take 40 for each one. 40. I'm just putting 40, though the length might not be up to that, but just putting 40. Then for these phone numbers, I'll just put 15 just in case. And again, you can use numbers here to indicate that yes, what is meant to be collected here is just numbers, but we'll leave it at varchar. Then after which we've done that, we can now go below, then click on what? Save. Now our database has been successfully created, and now we are good to go. Now that we have successfully created our database, what do we do next? We need to go back to our Dreamweaver, where we have our page already open. The page here, sorry for that, the page here is already opened. This is templates which we are going to be using throughout this course. Now this template here, what do we need in this template? Now this is what we are going to do. We have to create a connection that will link this template to our database. How do we do that? Now, what do we do? We're here. We have to come to our, if you come to the right hand here, you see some things here: file, asset, snippet. If you come here, you see some general terms there. Go to the application. Here you can see database. Now what do we do? If you look at this, there's a database here already. I don't want this. I want to create a new database, so I'll select this and use the minus sign to remove the database. Now I want to create a new connection that will link us to the database we have created now. So I'll click on the plus sign, MySQL connection. Now what is the connection name? I'll call it anything I want. I can use con as the connection name, SQL server, localhost, then username and password. In a moment, we'll need to go back to our browser to create something before we come back here, so I will understand why we need to use this username and password. So let's move back to our browser and see what we are doing. Here on the browser here, we need to create a privilege for our database. So we come to privilege here, click on privilege, you see add new user. Click on this add new user. Then on the username, we can call it A0. Host is localhost. Always remember that. Localhost. Then password, let's also use A0. Here it's saying you should retype the password, so you just retype it A0. After you've done that, what is next? If you come underneath here, you see some privileges that are meant to be enjoyed by this database. So what we need to do is to check all of them. After checking all, as you can see, they've all been checked. If you click on it, they will be. If you click on the uncheck, it will be unchecked. But now we need to check all of them so that we have full access to the database. Now we'll click on go. Now what it has successfully done is that we've created the privilege that can be accessed by the database anywhere, anytime. So let's go back to Dreamweaver. This username and password will be A0, which is what we just create, the privilege we just created now for that database we are working with. Now select database. If you click on it now, you see a list of database showing. What we are interested in is the student record. You select student record and you click on OK. If you want to check if what we are doing is successful, you click on the test. Now it shows that connection was successfully made. You click OK. Now you can finally click on this OK. Now it's showing you cannot, something is happening here. Let's see what is happening. It's showing cannot create a new connection because the file already exists. That's because I've already created a connection for this before. So what do? We just need to at least change the name. Maybe con. Make the n double, then create. It has already created. Now a connection is successful, and if you go behind these codes, you see our database connection right there. So we can always open this folder, and here is our definition of our database. If you look at it, everything is already arranged, so you can include this into every page that will need that database connection. So this is how to create your connection, and if you want to test it, you are free to check on it anytime, any day. But the important part is that our connection was successful. That is why on clicking on it, it shows connection was successfully made. So this is the connection here, and this is how to create a site definition and a database connection to it. So I'll see you in the other chapter.